Christopher Columbus, celebrated as the founding father of a new world. But for all his fame, Columbus kept a closely guarded secret: his identity. Could he have once been a pirate, a mercenary, an enemy of the state, even a Jew hiding from the terror of the Spanish Inquisition?
There are loads of gaps in his life, and he appears to have wanted it to be like that.
Where did he really come from? Italian or Spaniard? Nobleman or peasant? The secret of Columbus's true identity went with him to the grave. But now, a scientific team has exhumed his remains to discover the truth.
If we can get DNA out of these bones, we could finally find out who Christopher Columbus is.
They've made an unexpected find: defleshing.
Defleshing could entail everything from removing the head, sawing off the arms, legs.
Can the latest scientific techniques reveal who the real Columbus was? And what dark secrets he took to the grave? (1476), 6 miles off the Portuguese coast. A fierce sea battle is taking place. 5 Genoese merchant vessels are under attack by a flotilla of pirates. A young man called Christopher Columbus is caught in its midst. According to the history books, he's a crew member defending his Genoese merchant ship. But the ship catches fire, and Columbus is forced to leap overboard and swim for his life.
According to this account, he swims 2 leagues to get to the coast. Now, 2 leagues is about 6 miles at least, and therefore this would be a very great exploit indeed.
Conventional history records that it was a pivotal moment in Columbus's life. He believed he was saved because God had chosen him to discover a new world. But records attributed to Columbus's own son reveal an entirely different story. They claim Columbus was fighting on the other side as a mercenary, an enemy of his eventual royal patrons. Leaping into the water, he would escape a terrible past and start again with a new identity. But this is only one of many controversial theories about the explorer's hidden past. Some say he was secretly a Jew who changed his identity to escape the terror of the Spanish Inquisition. Others claim he hid his past to escape the stigma of illegitimacy. The history books tell us that Columbus was a poor weaver's son from the Italian town of Genoa. But Columbus expert Professor Charles Merrill believes the history books could be wrong.
There may have been a Cristoforo Colombo in Genoa, but he wasn't the same man who discovered America.
Merrill is setting out on a personal quest to find out what Columbus was really hiding. An extraordinary event taking place at Seville Cathedral, Spain, might just give Merrill vital scientific support for his theory. Because a team of scientists have received special permission to exhume the remains of Christopher Columbus and subject them to a battery of scientific tests. Heading the team is Professor Jose Antonio Lorente. He hopes DNA analysis will reveal the hidden secrets of Columbus's life and death.
If we can get DNA out of these bones, we could finally find out who Christopher Columbus is.
Forensic anthropology offers other clues, uncovering a bizarre medieval mortuary practice called defleshing.
That's going to involve, first of all, removing the head, sawing it off, sawing off the arms, separating limb from limb.
Forensic linguists will try to unlock the code hidden within Columbus's writings to reveal his mother tongue, while psychological profiling attempts to uncover the man behind the mask.
Columbus invented America. Is it a stretch to imagine that also Columbus invented himself in the process? I don't think so.
Finally, Columbus's bones will return to America once again, to be analyzed in a specialist DNA laboratory in Dallas, Texas.
It's kind of unreal, actually, when you think that you receive bones in your laboratory that are possibly from Christopher Columbus.
They are using a new technique invented for the 9/11 victims to finally crack the identity of the world's most famous explorer. Can the investigation of Professor Charles Merrill and the team of experts discover the truth behind the man we know as Christopher Columbus? Seville Cathedral. An extraordinary experiment is taking place. After 3 years of bureaucratic red tape, scientist Jose Lorente and his team have finally been granted permission to examine the actual remains of Christopher Columbus. An ancient key is carefully handed over. It is the key to an elaborately carved tomb that holds his bones. Columbus's direct descendant, Anunciada Colón, witnesses this historic event. She is intrigued by the mysteries her famous ancestor left behind. Mysteries that 21st century science might finally solve.
The scientific analysis is important because there are unclear facts surrounding the life and death of Columbus.
But the experts do not know what, if anything, still remains inside the casket. Precise measurements are taken, recording every detail of this historic occasion. After 5 centuries, will there be anything left of Columbus? The last remains of the great explorer. Now, just small fragments of bone and ashes.
So when we opened the box and I saw the bones in there, I knew that it was going to be difficult. I was expecting to find some more larger fragments of bones, and they were with this color that it's telling you that DNA it's in very bad shape. But anyway, we had to try to find the truth about this so important person, about Christopher Columbus.
Today, Columbus is celebrated as an Italian, one of the greatest Italians of them all. History records that Columbus began his life as a humble weaver from the Italian town of Genoa. The heroic story of the penniless dreamer who harbored a terrifying ambition to sail to the ends of the earth so captured the imagination of the powerful Spanish court that they helped to finance his ambition. Columbus sailed west from Spain in search of a new route to India. Instead, he found a new world. His acclaimed brilliance as a navigator, cartographer, and religious missionary was rewarded with great riches and a wealth of grand titles. Columbus's rags to riches history embodied the founding dream of the continent he was said to have discovered. Or so the story goes. But Charles Merrill has been studying the question of Columbus's origins for decades, and he believes that this account could be wrong.
The history books of all countries and of all times have said that Christopher Columbus was from Genoa. But there were no documents about his birth at the time or about his youth or childhood. So the lack of documents didn't stop historians from repeating what little was known.
And the explorer himself made it even more difficult. During his lifetime, Columbus didn't tell anyone the details of his childhood, not even his son.
He wished to live in obscurity, all that pertained to his birthplace and family.
There are loads of gaps in his life, and he appears to have wanted it to be like that.
But what was he hiding? Columbus only once recorded where he was from.
From Genoa I came, and therein was I born.
But the document is a copy of a long-lost original and is suspected to be a forgery.
He said once in a document that he was born in Genoa, but we really doesn't know where he was born.
Other documents that could reveal the crucial clues to his identity have vanished. Because for centuries, Columbus's descendants have been involved in a family feud, arguing over the rights to his titles and wealth, 8% of the riches from the New World. As a result, many relevant documents have been faked and original evidence destroyed.
Many records were destroyed, they're lost. Some intentionally, and some not.
Without records, Columbus's origins were mired in controversy. Then in the 19th century, the Italian city of Genoa produced over 70 documents claiming that he came from their town. It was convincing evidence and is now accepted as fact.
The overwhelming consensus is that Columbus is Genoese, and this is because, up to now, virtually all the documentary evidence, both Columbus's own writings and also the writings of his contemporaries and relatives, say that he was.
Charles Merrill has traveled to Genoa to challenge the accepted theory that Columbus was born here. He has come to see the house where the explorer is said to have grown up. In the 1450s, this humble weaver's cottage was occupied by Domenico Colombo and Susanna Fontanarosa. Many experts say that Columbus was their son.
He came from not a very large family by the standards of the time, but a normal one, with 4 brothers and sisters. If it's true, as it appears to be then from the documents in Genoa, that in his youth Columbus worked in crafts in the city itself, in particular in weaving, he later becomes a sailor.
The accepted theory is that Columbus was in his early 20s when he traded in his father's textile business for a life at sea. He became a crew member of a Genoese trading ship and left Italy for good. Four years later, in 1476, he was involved in the pivotal sea battle that was to change his life forever. Swept ashore on the Portuguese coast, it was here, according to the traditional view, that a humble weaver's son would be transformed into a man of destiny. He would become the explorer and adventurer Christopher Columbus. But Charles Merrill believes that the son of Domenico and Susanna may be the wrong Christopher Columbus.
The man that we know as the discoverer of America did not have many of the characteristics that the Cristoforo Colombo of the Genoese documents had. There may have been a Cristoforo Colombo in Genoa, but he wasn't the same man who discovered America.
And the events in Seville Cathedral might just help Charles Merrill prove his claim. Under strict security, the remains of Christopher Columbus are anonymously transported to a laboratory in Granada, Spain. The results of this experiment are so controversial that the tests will be conducted under the utmost secrecy.
It is possible, if the science can prove it, that there's a lot of new discoveries about the discoverer still to come.
Seville Cathedral has allowed them only 6 days to conduct their tests. Then Columbus's remains must be returned to their tomb. What secrets will the bones reveal about Columbus's life and death? After 500 years, can this new research finally solve the mystery of Columbus's secret identity? At Granada University, Columbus's remains will undergo an intense examination using 2 completely different scientific techniques. Jose Lorente, an expert in DNA analysis, will examine the unique genetic code from Columbus's bones.
It was emotional for me because these are supposed to be the bones of one of the main person in Spanish history.
Professor Miguel Botella is an expert in forensic anthropology. His expertise enables him to find hidden secrets within the bones of the explorer. Botella's analysis could reveal crucial information about the age of Columbus at the time of his death. The scientist's work could overturn recorded history that Columbus was not an Italian from Genoa and might even prove an entirely different past. A crucial issue for his descendants.
If the results prove that Columbus wasn't Italian, it will be a very important surprise. We will have to rewrite a lot of things about his life, I think.
Charles Merrill is in the port town of Genoa in Italy to challenge the accepted theory that Columbus was born here. He wants to examine a critical document in the Naval Museum that experts say proves Columbus came from Genoa. Written by the explorer himself, the document has traditionally been interpreted as saying,
"Although my body is here, my heart is in Genoa."
But Merrill's careful scrutiny reveals that the letter never specifically mentions Genoa.
There's a line in it that says, "Although my body is here, my heart is there." Sometimes that's translated as, "Although my body is here, my heart is with you in Genoa," but that's not the words that are actually used.
It is Merrill's first clue that his Genoese origins might be wrong. And there is another aspect of Columbus's life that does not fit the traditional theory: his age. According to conventional history, Columbus set sail from Genoa around the age of 20. But Columbus himself appears to contradict this in his writings.
From a very small age, I went sailing upon the sea.
Charles Merrill believes that the Genoese sailor is the wrong Christopher Columbus because the 20-year-old weaver's son began his nautical career too late to actually be the explorer.
He had an extensive maritime experience that he must have had from the age of childhood, whereas the Cristoforo Colombo of Genoa never sailed at all until he was at least 20.
Even his descendant questions whether Columbus really was a Genoese weaver's son.
There is a lot of information that leads us to it and makes us believe it, but there are other aspects that do not fit into the puzzle.
Columbus's marriage raises another problem with the story of the Genoese weaver. In 1478, he married Filipa Moniz, a noblewoman from Portugal.
Filipa belonged to a noble Portuguese family. Her father was the governor of Porto Santo. How could someone coming from a humble class How could he marry a woman from a noble family? The specialists in Portuguese social history tell me that this kind of marriage at that time would have been impossible.
If Filipa couldn't marry outside her social class, then is it possible that Columbus actually came from a noble family? Charles Merrill is building his case to prove that Columbus was not a weaver's son. If his theory is correct, then who was Christopher Columbus? It's a question that the scientists at Granada University might help resolve. Forensic anthropologist Miguel Botella has begun examining the bones of Columbus. With so few bones left, he must examine each fragment in minute detail. And already, he finds something unexpected. He notices a tiny cut on one of the fragments from Columbus's remains.
On the only jaw fragment that has been conserved, there is a cut. This cut corresponds to a mark that probably means a loss of flesh.
It suggests to Botella that Columbus's corpse underwent a gruesome mortuary practice, defleshing.
Defleshing could entail everything from removing what remains within the actual body cavity and the brain to essentially butchery. That's going to involve, first of all, removing the head, sawing off the arms and legs, removing the muscles, sinews, and all the other ligaments. This is going to be quite a deal.
Discarding the flesh and keeping the bones was a method used for bodies to be transported long distances. When Columbus died in 1506, he was to be buried in his beloved Hispaniola, modern-day Dominican Republic. It was the island he first landed on in 1492. In absolute secrecy, Columbus's daughter-in-law arranged the journey. Under cover of night, his casket was camouflaged and put on a ship bound for Santo Domingo. This was because medieval sailors were superstitious. They were afraid of traveling with the dead.
The great fear was partly that they might actually come back. Behind every such superstition, there can quite often be a kind of practical explanation. If you're locked up in a tiny medieval ship for a long voyage, one thing you're going to be afraid of is contagion.
Columbus's remains returned to Spain over 3 centuries later, but some people claim that his bones are still in the Dominican Republic. Professor Botella's find is the first clue that these remains are those of Columbus. Because crucially, defleshing was only used on nobility, as Columbus certainly became by the time of his death.
Defleshing was something that was particularly associated with aristocrats and kings.
It's the first clue that these bones have revealed. As the scientific team continue their analysis, what else will they find? DNA expert Professor Jose Llorente selects a few fragments from the remains believed to be those of Christopher Columbus to keep in his laboratory. The bones are seriously degraded. With so few samples to work with, the task of DNA extraction will be challenging for the scientists. In sterile conditions, research scientist Dr. Carlos Alvarez cleans the first fragment of any external DNA. The extraction process destroys the bones. He grinds the first precious fragment into a powder.
In this particular case, it is a big issue to deal with these bones because we know how important they are. When you deal with one sample of Christopher Columbus in the lab and you're grinding and you're extracting, you know that this is the last shot that you have on these samples.
The first fragment has been crushed. But the scientists first need to prove that these actually are Columbus's remains. They must compare this DNA to a close relative of the explorer. To establish the genetic link, the team have exhumed the remains of two of Columbus's relations, his brother Diego and his son, Hernando. Hernando was his father's first biographer, and Merrill scours his work in search of clues about Columbus's life. But even Hernando admits that his father kept his origins a secret.
My father was a very capable and talented man for the great enterprise, but he kept his homeland and origins a secret.
Hernando even traveled to Italy, searching for his father's origins, but he did not find a single relative. According to Hernando's biography, after the death of his wife, Columbus moved to Castile, a region of modern-day Spain. Here begins the story of the explorer we know, when the deliberately obscure early years of Columbus's life become undisputed fact. The unknown adventurer arrives at the court of King Ferdinand of Aragon and Queen Isabella of Castile, a reinvented man. He is educated, versed in the science of astronomy and cartography, and he had a towering ambition. But why wouldn't he tell anyone where he came from? Merrill has asked a psychological profiler, Dr. Harold Burstein, to search for a motive behind Columbus's cover-up.
For someone to obscure their identity must mean that they're either being driven by fear, they're afraid of something, they're being driven by shame, they're ashamed of something, they're driven by desire, they want something.
Experts believe that the ambitious explorer was trying to cover up the shame of his modest beginnings.
Perhaps he was of a humble family, and then he didn't want to show. He was a pretender in one sense, and he wanted to live like a great man.
But Dr. Burstein thinks it's unlikely for one crucial reason. Columbus did not hide his family. He kept his brothers close to him throughout his lifetime.
If he had been a member of a pro-Genoese family and he wanted simply to forget about it, it's more likely that he would not have wanted to keep his brothers close to him as he rose to power. Usually under those circumstances, the people who are considered to be lower class are left behind.
In 1492, he departed into the unknown. It was the first of 4 voyages to the Americas, and his 2 brothers accompanied him on his later journeys. If Columbus was not a poor weaver from Genoa, then where did he grow up? Charles Merrill is in Barcelona, Spain. He is here to investigate an extremely controversial theory, that Columbus is not an Italian at all, but a Spaniard, specifically a Catalan. Catalonia is a region of modern-day Spain. Its capital is Barcelona. He meets Columbus expert Francesc Albardaner. He is a research director of a society dedicated to proving that Columbus is Catalan. And Merrill thinks he may be right.
There is something in the life of Columbus that doesn't fit at all with the orthodox theory of the poor boy of Genova. It's a too romantic version that doesn't fit with the true Columbus.
He takes Merrill to the site of a home once owned by a noble family called Colom of Barcelona. The Catalan theory claims that Columbus was a member of this family.
This was a very rich, noble and famous family here. They were bankers. They belonged to this bourgeois elite of merchants that traded all around the Mediterranean. So the tradition of this family was already of a sailor.
And during his lifetime, Columbus was actually called Colom.
The original form of Columbus's name was Colom, C-O-L-O-M, which is a Catalan word. He'd never called Colombo or Columbus in Spain.
As a member of the Colom family, Columbus fits the profile of the explorer. He would have been educated, his family were mariners, and they were aristocrats. But then why would Columbus hide his past? The explorer's writings may hold crucial clues. In a letter, he made an extraordinary claim. He said he captained a ship during the Catalan Civil War against King Ferdinand's family, the very monarchy that financed his voyage of discovery.
Having that background of warfare against the family, which was a family that both Isabel and Ferdinand came from, it would have been impolitic for him to have insisted on his own identity when he came to court in 1484 asking for favors.
The Catalan theory agrees that Columbus was involved in a battle off the coast of Portugal. But instead of being a crew member of a Genoese merchant ship, he was fighting on the other side with the corsairs, or mercenaries. By extraordinary coincidence, the admiral of the corsairs came from the Colom family of Barcelona.
Columbus sailed with Guillaume de Casanova Colom because he was his relative.
Columbus even appears to acknowledge this relative in his own writings, as he once wrote,
I am not the first admiral in my family.
Furthermore, there is no evidence of an Italian Columbus ever sailing with the Genoese merchants.
At the end of the 19th century, an Italian historian discovered all the list of persons that were with the 5 boats of Genova, and Colombo was not there.
Was the young Columbus, in fact, a Catalan mercenary? It was in Barcelona that his triumphant return from his voyage of discovery was celebrated. Columbus finally received the recognition he had craved. He sat beside his monarchs as their favored son, an honor no subject normally enjoyed. But did he celebrate his triumph with the very monarch that he fought against as a young mercenary? Dr. Burstein's analysis suggests he did.
The price that one pays in hiding one's identity is a considerable price, so there has to be something which outweighs it. It could be a process which is driven by being an enemy of the state originally, who wants to go ahead and switch sides, but doesn't want to publicize the fact that he had been an enemy of the state, especially if that's still held against you. I mean, it would be consistent with that.
But for Charles Merrill, there are problems with the Catalan theory. There is no record of a Christopher Columbus born in Catalonia, which suggests that Columbus could have been illegitimate.
You cannot study illegitimate persons because they don't appear nowhere. In the inheritance documents, they are not there because they could not inherit nothing.
Professor Llorente's tests could prove whether Columbus was illegitimate. By comparing Columbus's DNA with his brother Diego, he could find out if they had a different mother. But the first DNA test on Columbus's bones has not been a success. The team have not been able to extract a pure DNA sample.
The results that we are getting right now are not very good so far. It means that the DNA that we are getting is not of enough quality, and basically it has a lot of inhibitors.
The scientists must begin again. They crush another of Columbus's precious bones. But their work on the remains of Columbus's son, Hernando, is much more productive. They have extracted Hernando's mitochondrial DNA, genes passed down through the female line. It cannot genetically link Hernando to Columbus, but it's an important first step. Llorente needs a different kind of DNA to make the link between father and son. The Y chromosome. It travels down the male line, but it's like finding a needle in a haystack.
So far we have results of the mitochondrial DNA from Hernando, but unfortunately this is it's not useful to be compared to the one of his father, because mitochondrial DNA comes from the mother, and he has to share with his father the Y chromosome, but it is much more difficult. It is actually the main challenge of the whole project.
Meanwhile, Charles Merrill is turning to an entirely different kind of science for evidence to support the Catalan theory. An analysis of Columbus's handwriting. Father Gabriel Roura, professor of paleography, has been asked to compare the handwriting of Columbus to the 15th century Catalan texts in his archive. Will Father Roura's findings provide evidence to support Merrill's theory? Or could Columbus's writings betray a far more sinister reason to hide his identity? Merrill is also investigating another theory, that Christopher Columbus was Jewish. 1492 wasn't just the date that Columbus landed in a new world. It was also the year religious persecution gripped Barcelona. The Spanish Inquisition. Ferdinand and Isabella's rule had a dark side. An entire community are forced from their homes. They are Jews. Some are banished from Barcelona, others are burned alive. The power of the Spanish Inquisition is at its height. And Columbus saw it all.
At that moment, when Columbus arrives in the presence of the kings, persons were burnt alive in Catalonia. So it's better to hide any possible relation with the Jewish world.
Was Columbus hiding his Jewish origins? Clues are contained in the Book of Prophecies, written by Columbus in his last years, a time when he became more and more religious. He speaks of his crowning ambition to erect a second Temple of the Mount, the holiest structure of ancient Jerusalem, with the riches from his journeys.
Columbus said that with the money that he was going to get from the Indias, he was going to rebuild a second temple, just as King Solomon had done in his time. This is an idea which is evidently not Christian. It's a Jewish idea. That comes to confirm in my judgment the theory that Columbus was a Jew.
The DNA research may find an indication of Columbus's Jewish origins. But so far, the ancient bones have not given up any of their secrets. With only a few bones left, Professor Llorente has decided to take a dramatic step. In his shoulder bag, he is carrying Columbus across the Atlantic once more. The bones of Christopher Columbus have arrived back in America. They've come to a cutting-edge DNA laboratory in Dallas, Texas.
Hi, how are you? Great to see you. Nice to see you. It's kind of unreal, actually, when you think that you receive bones in your laboratory that are possibly from Christopher Columbus. I mean, you know, that's what you learned about as a child in school. So it's very exciting for us to think that we could get results on those bones and provide a lot of history.
What we got here.
The lab specializes in a new technique of DNA analysis, a technique developed for the victims of the 9/11 tragedy. Professor Llorente is pinning his hopes on this new process. Will the Dallas laboratory finally succeed in extracting DNA? And even if they do, genetic analysis cannot help Charles Merrill prove whether Columbus was an Italian or a Catalan. But for Merrill, there is one piece of striking evidence that undermines the story that Columbus came from Italy. He could not write in Italian. Even his letters to his brothers and to his bankers in Genoa are written in Spanish.
He never wrote in Italian to anyone, even when he wrote to other Italians. When he wrote to his brother, he wrote in Spanish. He never went back to Italy after he became famous in 1492, 93, when he returned from the voyage. It doesn't seem possible that he would have completely forgotten his language, because the Colombo from Genoa that's spoken of in the documents didn't leave the city till his 20s.
To get scientific support for his theory, Charles Merrill turns to a brand new technique used in criminal investigations. Professor Izagiri is an expert in linguistic engineering. Using a special method called lexicometry, his computer searches for Columbus's linguistic mistakes. This technique may identify features of Columbus's mother tongue.
We can look for evidence of Catalan influence in the words.
As Professor Izagiri begins his analysis, the scientific team is reaching the end of its investigation. What secret was Columbus trying to hide? Was he a Catalan mercenary? Could he have been Jewish? Or was he the son of a Genoese weaver, as the history books say? 500 years on, can the investigation finally find the true identity of Christopher Columbus? After months of research, the scientific results on the remains of Christopher Columbus have finally come in. DNA techniques, forensic anthropology, and linguistic analysis are poised to reveal the secrets of Christopher Columbus. Charles Merrill is hoping that the results will confirm his theory that Columbus was not the son of a weaver from Genoa. Forensic anthropologist Miguel Botella has the first important find. He has identified the age of Columbus's brother Diego at the time of his death. The city of Genoa's documents record that Diego died at the age of 48 or younger. But Professor Botella's findings have revealed that Diego is older than the Genoese records show.
The age we have estimated for the death of this person is around 56 years old. We could conservatively estimate his death to be between 52 and 58 years.
Professor Botella's analysis indicates that Columbus and his brother cannot be from the Genoese weaver's family. If Columbus was not a Genoese weaver, was he Catalan? Charles Merrill is about to get results from Father Rura to find out if Columbus's handwriting reveals his origins.
We are within what we call cursive Gothic writing. There are some details which we can find in other Catalan scripts.
And this Catalan characteristic, it's typical from around here?
Yes, it's normal.
Father Rura's analysis indicates that Columbus had clear Catalan influences in his writing. But Father Rura has also found something else that's highly significant.
We can clearly deduct that Columbus had education and culture. People who have limited education write slowly, choosing their words. But a person who has a good education is used to writing fluidly.
Father Rura's evidence indicates that Columbus was from a noble family, because in the 15th century, education was the exclusive province of the upper classes. Will the lexicometric results support his findings? Merrill has come to see if Professor Ysaguirre's computer has uncovered a Catalan mother tongue.
So you have some results of your linguistic studies now?
The mother tongue of Columbus could be Catalan. These don't exclude other languages.
And is it possible to tell anything about which type of Catalan was spoken?
This is only in Central Catalan.
Professor Ysaguirre's computer has narrowed down the region that Columbus might have come from. The central region of Catalonia includes Barcelona. It is extraordinary evidence. It points to a Catalan, a well-educated Catalan. Was Columbus a member of the family of mercenaries from Barcelona? But the DNA tests are unable to confirm or disprove Merrill's theory. Professor Lorente has found a short sequence of mitochondrial DNA from the remains believed to be Columbus's, but it is impure.
We couldn't get clean sequence of mitochondrial DNA from Christopher Columbus. So in some extent we are stuck here. We cannot move farther.
Whether the bones in Seville Cathedral are definitely those of Columbus is still a mystery. But the undisputed remains of Columbus's son, Hernando, has given the team a type of Columbus's DNA. They have extracted the male line Y chromosome, and through it, they find Columbus's unique DNA. Is Columbus Jewish?
It's a preliminary information, but it looks pretty much like a regular Caucasian DNA.
The DNA analysis has indicated that Christopher Columbus was not hiding his Jewish origins. But Professor Lorente's research is not entirely over. He places the few fragments that are left from the skeleton believed to be Columbus into storage, in the hope that advances in DNA technology may one day prove or disprove Merrill's theory. But for Professor Charles Merrill, the other scientific findings have been remarkable. The anthropological analysis has backed up his theory that Columbus did not come from Genoa, as history books tell us. And the linguistic studies indicate that he could well have been born in Catalonia.
The linguistic investigations have shown that Catalan is a likely candidate for the native language of Columbus, and the handwriting analysis shows that he learned to write at an early age and that he was from a noble family and that he was well educated. It makes me feel that it's not a question that's been closed, as many of the traditional or orthodox historians have insisted.
For Charles Merrill, it is the end of his own exploration. He believes he has reopened the debate about Columbus's origins and provided a plausible explanation for the secret history of the great explorer. For 500 years, Christopher Columbus has kept his dark secret. Charles Merrill believes that Columbus was a Catalan mercenary who had fought against the very monarchs that 15 years later financed his voyage of discovery. Perhaps Columbus would not have made his historic journey had he not hidden his past. Columbus himself may have wanted his true identity revealed one day. The words of his personal motto are inscribed on his tomb in Seville Cathedral. They read, "Let me not be confused forever."